I wanted to thank Yeshivat Cациon for giving me the opportunity to share some words of Torah with you connected to Parashat Shoftim. The Haftorahs are often neglected in our Shabbos davening experience. But Haftorahs, and particularly Haftorahs of Nevi'im Achronim, actually have deeply powerful and emotional messages. By learning Nevi'im Achronim, I've learned that the words of the Nevi'im are actually expressing to us emotions of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, almost like finding Hashem's diary or reading a letter that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has written to us. And imagine how exciting that would be if we found a letter or a page of Hashem's diary. And the Nevi'im Achronim are often not so much about telling us the future, but rather about sharing with us the emotions that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is feeling, Kavyachol, towards Am Yisrael. This is true in many of the Haftorahs, but it is most evident and most clearly expressed in the 10 Haftorahs that we have, 3 leading up to Tisha B'Av and 7 following Tisha B'Av, the Gimel de Paranusa and the Zayin de Nechemta. Perhaps most obviously before Tisha B'Av, the Haftorah of Shabbos Chazon, the words of Yeshayahu Hanavi. Yeshayahu says the following line, Banim Gidalti v'Ramamti v'Hem Pashubi, that I raised children and they betrayed me. Yeshayahu is channeling Hashem's Kaviyachal again, the sense of disappointment and betrayal in Am Yisrael. So reading those words, you feel so deeply the pain that HaKadosh Baruch Hu felt and wants us to know about. Similarly, and more joyously, after Tisha B'Av and the Zayin de Nechemta, again, we feel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in this case, trying to convince Am Yisrael that the relationship is still there and that there is a future. Nachamu Nachamu Ami, the Navi starts so famously, and that's the first week, but for 7 weeks that goes on. And in the first weeks of Torah, Dabra Alev Yerushalayim, speak to the heart of Yerushalayim and convince them that the relationship is still there. Famously, Dvar Torah points out that the 7 Haftorahs are a conversation perhaps between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Am Yisrael. Hashem says, Nachmu, Nachmu, that the relationship is still there. Klal Yisrael answers in the following week, Vatomer Tzion Azavani Hashem. And for 7 weeks back and forth it goes on until the last Haftorah, Klal Yisrael accepts the Nechama or realizes the Nechama, and the Haftorah begins with Sos Asis B'Hashem. Such beautiful images that we're surrounded by for 7 weeks. What I wanted to point out is that these images are not only in the Haftorah of Zayin de Nechemta in our lives, but in perhaps one of the most beloved prayers that we say in our davening, certainly on a weekly basis, it's one of the most beloved prayers. In the prayer of the Chadodi, Rav Shlomo Al-Kabetz was so touched by the images of the Chadod of Zayin de Nechemta that he incorporated them in the words of the Chadodi. Although the first 2 paragraphs and the last paragraph of the Chadodi talk about Shabbos, the 5 middle paragraphs talk about the Geula, and the images that Rav Shlomo Al-Kabetz used to express the Geula are all taken from the Haftorahs of Zayin de Nechemta, and our Parashat Shoftim gives us more images that are borrowed than any other Haftorah. For example, the words Hisna'ari and Hisorari appear in our Haftorah as well as many other words. So when we say L'Chadodi, we are channeling the beautiful images and messages of Zayin de Nechemta. I love the Chadodi, I love davening, I often am a chazan, and I certainly love beautiful Nusach HaTfilah, and I love singing. And for 35 years, the following question has bothered me every time I sing this beloved Tfilah of the Chadodi. Why is it that in the middle of the Chadodi, we change tunes? We sing one tune until the end of Hitorari, and then we switch by Lo Sevoshi to a different tune. Is that just a fluke? Did one chazan try something cute? Did one chazan make a mistake? How did it happen that in almost every shul that sings the Chadodi, they switch tunes by Lo Sevoshi? Is there any meaning to that? And it bothered me very, very much. About 2 years ago, a thought came to my mind that perhaps I wanted to suggest as an answer. The images of Hitnari and Hitori, which come from the Zayin de Nechemta, are very joyous images. However, they are images which are asking us to take a step, to get up out of the dust, to wake up, Kumi Ori, to shine, to take a step, to bring the Geula into fruition. It's full of joy, but it's asking us to do something to bring about that joy. From Lo Sevoshi and on, those images also come from Zayin de Nechemta, but those images are not asking us to do something. Lo Sevoshi is actually a promise. It's telling us what will happen once we take those steps. If we are Hitnari, if we are Hitori, then what will happen is Lo Tevoshi, Vahayu Limshisa, and Yomenu Small. So although the images of the first part of the Chadodi that's borrowed from Zayin de Nechemta are full of joy, the second part of the images are even more joyous. They're telling us, and those paragraphs are expressing what will happen once we take those steps. So in fact, there is a reason to change the tune from joyous or hopeful to almost celebratory in the second half of the Chadodi. As we say the Chadodi during these weeks, try to realize that although every Shabbos is beautiful to say the Chadodi, during Zayin de Nechemta, it's the home team. It's lahavdil, like drinking a Hawaiian punch in Hawaii. It is expressing in the Chadodi the beautiful emotions that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is convincing us to feel for these Zayin de Nechemta, which we're surrounded by. The Chadodi is expressing that so poignantly and poetically. And perhaps we could infuse our tefillot for the next few weeks, in particular the Chadodi, with this combination of Zayin de Nechemta and the beautiful images of the Chadodi. Shabbat Shalom.